Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a well respected entrepreneur and an author from Pennsylvania, USA, Kae Wagner. Kae, welcome to the show.
You. Good to see you, Ash. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Kay is a best-selling author. She's also the founder of the Bold Authors Network. So, Kay,
Yes.
before we come to book marketing, tell me about your journey and how did your careers as an author, founder of the Bold Author Network, and president of North Star Marketing come together into one mission?
Yes. So I've been a writer all my life. Um, I started out when I was 13. I
Mm-hmm.
won my first writing award.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up on a farm, and in America, there is the Future Farmers of America and 4-H. And so I didn't realize that they had a writing award. And so while my brothers and sisters were all doing cattle and sheep and all of that, I was doing writing and I won a state award. It
Mm-hmm.
was big, Ash. It was huge. And I'm like, huh, this writing thing must be a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I took that as opposed to hares and sheep and cattle. And that was published in high school and throughout college. And then in the real world, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
I moved into marketing and began writing in the marketing arena and did
Mm-hmm.
that for many, many years. And then started publishing nonfiction. From nonfiction, I had a period where I didn't publish at all,
Mm-hmm.
and I switched to fiction, which was such an incredible change.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different type of writing, different
Mm-hmm.
audiences,
Yeah,
but it's been a really, really wonderful journey.
amazing.
And during the time when I was writing fiction, so my first book was Saturday Night at the Trailer Park,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the first one in a series of four,
Mm-hmm.
actually five. I had a lot of authors approaching me because my first book did so well, and
Mm-hmm.
so they were interested in my marketing strategies.
Yeah.
So what's happened, Ash, has been really interesting. This um, confluence of all of the marketing that I did for
Mm-hmm.
major food companies, manufacturing companies, all of that marketing. Now I apply to the book world through the Bold Authors
Mm,
Network.
amazing. And what personal experiences or turning points shaped the Frankie Girl series and your upcoming Building Dreams series?
Ah, you've done your homework, Ash.
Mm-hmm.
So the Frankie Girl series, which this is the first book in the Frankie Girl series.
Mm-hmm.
The Frankie Girl series, Saturday Night at the Trailer Park, came from a personal experience, a personal story that I had wanted to write for a very long time to honor my father.
Mm-hmm.
My father is one of the characters in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And he is the messenger for the theme of forgiveness and redemption, for
Mm-hmm.
second chances. And I wanted to honor that theme that he lived his life on.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a very particular story that happened. Um, he convinced his church
Mm-hmm.
to purchase a school bus. And every Sunday morning, he would take that school bus and he would drive a route and pick up children to bring them to church.
Mm-hmm.
And I would occasionally go with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the stops that we made to pick up kids to take them to church was at a trailer park. And I was about 10, 11, 12 at the time. And so I had this vivid image of the trailer park, these kids from the trailer park, and that somehow things were happening there that I was very, very curious about.
Mm-hmm.
The book, of course, is fiction in terms of Frankie Girl. There was not a Frankie Girl, but she became the protagonist who then interacts with the character who is my father. and begins to understand because she's been through a lot of trauma, but
Mm,
throughout the series, the arc of her character is her beginning to understand the concepts of forgiveness, redemption, second chances,
mm,
and how that can impact the richness of your life.
mm. Amazing. What has been the most surprising or fulfilling moment in your journey of helping authors who dislike marketing?
Here's an interesting statistic for you, Ash. In fiction, about 75% of all fiction writers are introverts.
Mm,
So introverts are very, very good at writing, being alone in isolation, writing, writing, writing. They're not so good about the part about being out
yeah,
front, right?
yeah, yeah.
So what I found is that I am able to help authors to go from that introverted author to become a bold author.
Mm,
And we go through a process, and it's kind of like I can tell when people have this aha moment and they're like, oh, I get it. I finally get it.
mm.
You know, I can go out and talk about my book and not feel like I'm being a bad
Yeah,
salesperson,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like I can actually be the spokesperson for my book.
Mm,
And there's a certain point where an author must take responsibility for the
absolutely,
promotion of their book.
absolutely.
And when that happens, then things begin to roll. Then
Mm,
they begin to enjoy
mm,
marketing. They would never believe they could enjoy
mm.
marketing. But once they begin to see the process and how it actually begins to click and that there is success on the other side, then we see the light bulb go off.
Mm, amazing. So tell me then, what are some of the essential first steps you recommend to an author who feels overwhelmed by book promotion?
Yes, Ash, book promotion and marketing can be an overwhelming activity
Correct?
because it is never ending.
Mm,
Right. There's always one more book to be sold, one more person to sell to, one more podcast to get on, one more of everything to do.
mm,
But it really begins with the mindset. So it begins with that shift of taking responsibility for your book. Even if you're published with a traditional
hmm.
publishing house, you are still responsible.
Yeah,
They will do, hopefully, what they promised. That doesn't always happen. I was with a
correct.
publisher who did not do anything that was
Mm,
promised.
mm,
And that's my moment of realization when, yes, I'm going to go ahead and, publish this independently because I have to do all the promotions
right.
anyway, right?
Mm,
Um, so there's a mindset shift that comes with owning and being responsible for your book.
mm,
And then after that, when you really claim that ownership and that responsibility, you realize that you have to have the skills. And so it becomes a learning curve of what
hmm.
works.
Mm,
One of the things that we do at the Bold Authors Network is we hold a promo hour every Monday. And every Monday, we do a combination of author support, author teaching, author connection, interaction, so that authors are not alone.
mm,
They can come every Monday. It's a free hour and really get the support that they need and the direction. I
mm,
do a lot of teaching. I teach during promo hour. I teach during workshops and in other activities as well.
mm, mm,
So I call it backfilling your skills.
mm,
Like, when we are not full-time authors, for many people, they've had a career. So what do you do in a career?
mm.
You keep you learn your skills
Yeah.
and then you keep your skills up to date. It's the same
Mm,
thing with being an author. And
mm,
so many people will need to kind of, the end goal is selling books, but they'll need to backfill those
mm,
skills.
mm,
And so because of how adults learn, we do micro skills. I
Mm,
do micro online courses.
mm,
One tiny problem, one solution. Get that skill under your belt, and
mm,
then the next one, and then the next one. And that takes away the overwhelm. It takes the
mm.
feeling
Yeah,
of, I will never climb this mountain. Um, and it gives people encouragement because they're actually learning skills, and these
correct,
are skills that they can manage.
correct.
What happens after the mindset shift is the learning of marketing.
Mm, very interesting.
And yes.
You're
And
also
so
known
people
on,
learn,
sorry, go ahead, please.
and so people learn, how marketing works. What's the difference
Absolutely.
between marketing and branding and promotions and all the
Correct,
nuances of
correct,
marketing? Marketing is a
correct.
very exciting world,
It
Ash.
is, it is. I mean,
And yet,
I'm a published author of 10 books, and after my first book, I realized that was published by Penguin. And I realized to my horror
yes.
that, I'm supposed to do all the work. And,
And they get the money.
absolutely, absolutely. But moving on, Kay, you're known as a metadata expert.
Yeah.
What is metadata and why is it such a powerful tool for authors?
Well, I do love metadata.
Mm-hmm.
Metadata are those keyword phrases, those what we call long tail keyword phrases
Mm-hmm.
that you use in your press releases, in your descriptions, in your posts, in your blog, in all of the content that you put out that goes
Mm,
to all the nooks and crannies and corners of the internet. And what it does is it signals to AI, it signals to editors, it signals to search engines what you are trying to communicate.
mm,
But the important thing, Ash, is that, especially now with AI is building a dossier on
mm.
you.
Yeah.
AI is looking to see what is your digital footprint.
Mm,
And so it is gathering all of those pieces of metadata, all of those phrases, all of those words about you that you've
mm,
put out. And it's looking at it and it's saying, is this congruent?
mm,
Is this K Wagner over here the same one as the K Wagner over here? And
mm,
if it is, according to their congruency test,
mhm, mhm.
they are building a dossier, they're stuffing a folder full of all of the things about you.
Yeah.
And what happens with that, because AI is an answering machine,
Mm,
Google and search is a search machine,
mm.
right? So when you ask Google a question, it will provide you with a litany of choices. When
Correct.
you ask AI a question, it will give you the answer.
Mm,
Big, big difference. So
absolutely.
you want to feed AI and the algorithms because AI will answer the question that someone says,
Mm,
give me the top 10 books in modern fiction.
mm,
Well, I want my book to
mm,
be part of that. And so everything that I do with my book
mm,
includes a whole set of metadata, a whole set of specific words and phrases that I
mm,
use.
mm. Great response. So then tell me, how can authors optimize their metadata to get noticed by AI, engines, and platform algorithms?
Yes. So what is important is that you have the metadata, the words, the phrases, the long tail keyword phrases
Mm,
that appropriately match your book,
mm,
which means that you need to really understand what genre your book is in.
mm,
So we talk about categories on Amazon. You need to be in the right category.
mm.
So for example, if I took this book and I put it in fantasy and I used metadata that was related to fantasy for whatever reason. I mean, it
Mhm.
wouldn't make sense to do
Yeah.
that, just to be clear, Ash.
Mm, mm,
Extreme example. But AI and Google and all the algorithms would say, this is not congruent. And we think there's confusion about who this author is, so we are
Mm.
not going to recommend them.
Correct.
We are going to dismiss them. So the important part is that there's congruency. I use that word a lot,
Mm.
but you want things to be aligned.
Mm.
And so you pull from the marketing of your book. You understand what the genre is. If you
Mm.
don't know what the genre of your book is before you start writing, you might just be in a little bit of trouble,
Mm.
right?
Yeah,
Because you write to the genre.
correct.
If you're going to write romance, you need to understand tropes.
Mm.
You need to understand how romance is set up. If you write fantasy, you need to understand the rules of
Mm.
writing fantasy.
Yeah.
Every genre has its own formula, if you will, has its
Mm.
own expectations. And if you claim to be a fantasy and you're not, readers will call you out on it. You will
Mm.
get bad reviews, not because your book is bad, but
Mm.
because you placed it on the wrong bookshelf and they were looking for fantasy and you delivered something else.
Mm. Great response. Thank you. How important is pricing strategy and how should authors choose the right price point?
Yes, so there are two things about pricing that are really, really important. Number one is price equals value.
Mm.
So if you are in nonfiction, for example, excuse me, if you are nonfiction, your price point will definitely signal the value of your book.
Mm.
So nonfiction in a book that you expect to draw in a lot of CEOs, a lot
Mm.
of higher executives, you're going to want a higher price point.
Correct.
The expectation from a CEO will be that there will be a higher price point.
Mm.
In fiction, so that's nonfiction. In fiction, your pricing will reflect to some degree genre, will also reflect your status as an
Mm.
author.
Mm.
But if you are self-publishing, Kindle gives you Kindle Unlimited, the
Mm.
opportunity to be in Kindle Select, Kindle
Mm.
Unlimited,
Mm.
which means that it's like a library that people can take, pull out, use, lend, if you will, um, books that they're not paying for because they're
Mm.
on a subscription.
Yeah.
And then you have Kindle Digital, which Kindle Digital, um, Kindle will actually give you the guidelines for
Mm.
pricing.
Mm.
And so if you are between certain price points, they will help to promote you. And then you have paperback and hardcover.
Mm.
So you do have some discretion, but you should take your guidelines from what's happening within your genre.
Mm.
If you are way above or way low in your genre, readers will say, something's a little off here.
Correct. Correct.
So price is a real indicator that you're playing in the right genre, that you're playing at the right price point, that if you're at the high end of the price point,
Mm.
that will indicate a certain value proposition. So price is a very, very important indicator of
Absolutely.
where you're playing in the
Mm.
game.
Mm. And what role does reader engagement, reviews, newsletters, and other consumer feedback play in long-term sales?
They are very important in building your audience.
Mm.
The social media newsletters, it's important to understand the distinction in what you own and what you're renting.
Mm.
So social media like Facebook platforms, TikTok, those platforms, you do not own your audience. You are
Mm.
renting that
Mm.
space, right?
Mm.
If Facebook were to shut down, you would lose your Facebook group, you would lose your
Correct.
Facebook feed.
Mm.
So we always recommend that at the core of your author business, at the core of what you're doing as an author, being responsible for your marketing, is that you build your um, your email list. That is the most important thing because
Mm,
that is an asset. It is a business asset.
mm,
It's a customer list, and therefore you can interact directly with your readers, with your prospects through email and through newsletters.
mm,
And so we highly recommend that as a foundational start.
mm,
And over time, you will discover the activities that you need to do to build your list. One of the greatest list building is what we're doing right now, right? I'm on your podcast as a
mm,
guest,
mhm,
and I'm going to give a URL and a way for people to sign up for my newsletter.
mm.
And your wonderful listeners are going to sign up for the newsletter and they'll become part of my world as well.
Very
On the
interesting.
flip side of that, Ash, is being the podcast host, right?
Correct.
That also gives you the ability to reach people, to build your list,
Mm,
to really expand your audience and your
mm,
world.
mm. Absolutely. I have time for two more questions for you, Kay. How can
Okay.
authors collaborate with other writers to expand reach and discover new audiences?
Yes, that is a really valuable exercise. Great question, Ash. So one of the things that we do in the Bold Authors Network is a lot of collaboration.
Mm,
So authors will get together, they get to know each other in the Bold Authors Network, and they collaborate on list swaps. So, I send information about your book to my people, you send information about my book to your people, list swaps in that way.
mm,
There are other collaborations. We had promo hour yesterday, and two of the authors were telling me about how they collaborated on a project where one author was involved in a holiday effort for children
mhm,
and providing books and coloring books that another author had produced. So, of course, the first author was getting permission, and the second author was like, "Oh, I can give you so much more. I can ship you
mm.
a box of books."
Right.
And so, just, collaborations like that happen within the
Mm,
group all the time.
mm,
And so here's the mindset shift. Once you see the opportunity, once you in your mind say, everything is an opportunity to share my book. For example, I travel a lot. Everywhere I go, I literally carry this book because
mm,
on every trip, I know there's going to be a person who I'm going to give this book to.
mm.
I don't know who it is.
Yeah,
It's always a mystery to me, but there's
correct.
always someone who is led to me. We get into a conversation and they're like, "Oh, that looks like an interesting book." And I'm like, "Yeah, I wrote it. Would you like it?"
Mm. Very interesting. Very
And it
interesting.
expands because one
Correct.
book leads to many more.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. And my last question for you, and this is about the Bold Author Network. What opportunities does the Bold Author Network give writers that they might not find elsewhere? And you've told me about the community, of course.
Yes. So what we do in the Bold Authors Network is we help people, number one, make that mindset
Mm,
shift. And we do that through teaching, through collaboration, through opportunities. But I will tell you a perfect example of what you're asking happened yesterday.
hmm.
So are you familiar with listicles? Do you know
No,
what a listicle is?
no.
Okay, so a listicle, it's a combination of two words, list and article.
Hmm.
And a listicle is an article that is a list.
Okay.
So, for example, right now there are many listicles going out about the best books of 2025,
Hmm.
the best mysteries of 2025, the best, thrillers of 2025.
Mm,
So I decided that I was going to do a listicle and offer to all of the bold authors the opportunity to be part of this listicle.
mm,
And I will handle, on behalf of bold authors, the press releases, the promotions, and the production
Hmm.
for free. Now, if you don't take advantage of that, then that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And an author who is published and understands marketing already has all of that ready.
Hmm.
Title, description, name, metadata.
Hmm.
They already have that ready.
Yeah.
So one of the hallmarks of a marketer, of an author who doesn't hate marketing anymore, is that they have their resources in hand,
Hmm.
that they're organized. And if I say, I have a great opportunity for you, they can just pull out their folder and everything is right there.
Hmm.
But doing this listicle and getting it out in a press release will give our bold authors great reach. Last week, I did a press release for an author about his book. Within 24 hours, he had gotten an interview from a magazine out in LA.
Wow.
So, yeah. So this is all really real fun stuff.
Correct.
And we just, show people, not just tell them, but show authors that you
Hmm.
don't have to hate marketing. You can actually learn
Absolutely.
to love it.
Absolutely. And on that note, Kay, I just want to say what a fascinating discussion this has been. I've
Thank you.
confronted this whole challenge of marketing a long time since I started writing in 2010. And every time it's the same that until the author goes out and puts himself or herself out in front of the, the, the potential reader, the book will just be sitting on the shelf. Thank you for
Exactly.
demystifying in our conversation today some of the aspects of marketing a book. Uh, Books don't sell on their own. Authors have to make sure they're sold. But thank you for talking
That's
to me,
right.
for giving us such amazing pointers, and good luck to you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.